seriously popular.
Hey everyone, welcome back to MAGAland. We're excited to be here today with Jon Michael. Welcome back. The breaking news story overnight is that Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88, which only happened about a few hours after his meeting with JD Vance. So crazy timing with that. We have also had eyes on First Lady Melania Trump. She emerges out of the shadows for the White House Easter egg roll alongside her husband. There's a lot of interaction between the pair that we'll unpack. Pete Hegseth, also at the Easter egg roll, has been defending pushback after he was exposed to be embroiled in another Signal chat scandal. Ice Barbie Kristi Noem's bag was stolen during an Easter dinner in Washington, D.C. We'll lay it out what was actually stolen from her purse. And of course, RFK Jr. is back in the spotlight. His new comments on autism have sparked backlash amid Dr. Oz being sworn in as CMS head. But first up, we have Taylor Lorenz back with us here in MAGAland. We'll get to all of that and more right after this break.
Welcome to MAGAland.
And welcome back to MAGAland, everyone. We're here today again with Taylor Lorenz. Taylor, welcome. We're excited to have you back. There's been a lot going down in the world of MAGAland since we last spoke with you. As you all know, we had Taylor on the podcast not too long ago. He's not afraid to dive into a controversy, and that's really what has happened since we saw you last. It seems as though you really came to head with Sean Hannity on quite a few topics, but let's start by taking a listen to this video of Taylor on Sean Hannity's show.
I believe that our current healthcare system is murderous, right? I mean, we have uninsured Americans with a 40% higher risk of death compared to insured counterparts.
Taylor,
Nearly 70,000 Americans die
but that's
each
not
year
the topic.
due to lack of health insurance.
Taylor, that's not the topic. If you can talk about healthcare, I don't like the healthcare system either, and a lot of people have experienced frustration, like you're saying. That, to me, is separate and apart from the debate of praising, calling handsome, smart, intelligence, being joyful over the death and assassination of innocent people. And that's what your comments did. Your comments basically put your seal of approval on murder and assassination. And I'm trying to understand whether you like this guy, like the way he does business or not, you're advocating and putting a smiley face on assassination. And I'm trying to understand what is in your soul that doesn't understand he's a father and a husband here. What are you missing? There seems to be a missing chip with you.
Sean, if you'd like to hear, I will need to talk.
So Taylor, take us into that moment with Sean Hannity. What was going through your mind? What was your initial reaction? What happened play by play?
Well, I was absolutely thrilled to finally be invited on Fox News. They cover me pretty constantly, and I've always said I would love to go on and speak with them directly. So when I got that link, I thought it might be a prank. I don't think Sean was quite interested in what I had to say. He sort of was conflating like me describing these sort of Luigi fangirls that show up outside his prison, which Donnie at CNN had done a special on, with like me, who's reported on those people. And yeah, it was a little frustrating, but I'm glad to have had the opportunity to say my piece.
Did you guys find any common ground, anything off camera or behind the scenes that you could share?
I thought this was a prank. Like, the producer reached out and I was like, okay, 50% this is a prank, and I'm going to click on this Zoom link and it's going to be some joke, because Fox News has always been just like unwilling to even like let me speak. So yeah, when I clicked in, they were already mid-show and he didn't say anything to me. He just seemed like he wanted to rant and scream at me. He was asking me if people had souls. I'm a pretty public avowed atheist, so I was laughing at that one. Yeah, he didn't really seem to want to discuss anything about the healthcare system. I think it's kind of weird because, again, as I've said from the jump, we don't know Luigi's true ideology. We don't know the motivations. There is that note, but in that note, even he seems to admit that he doesn't know that much about the healthcare system. So I don't think that he's some like leftist woke king, as people are making him out to be. But clearly this raised the topic of healthcare, and he seemed to not even want to talk about that. He kept talking about how Brian Thompson was a father and a husband, as if that's relevant to anything.
I just want to get that piece, right? The Luigi fangirls, Luigi fandom. If you could just break that down really quickly for us, what have you found in your reporting about this? I don't understand it at all. I can barely even parse the healthcare system to begin with, let alone the fandoms that have built up around this.
Yeah, it's easier to understand the fandom than the insurance industry, which is, I would argue, a very evil, murderous industry in America. So Donnie at CNN, who's a great CNN reporter, had put out this special called Misinfonation, which is about the rise of political extremism on all sides of the aisle. And in that, he interviews a bunch of these women that are sending Luigi letters. They're standing outside his prison. They're showing up to his court hearings, and there's this fandom around him. I don't think this is quite surprising. I mean, this is America. Like, there's a fandom around pretty much every shooter imaginable. But what these fans have said is, look, he's this like guy who's brought attention to healthcare. He's this like morally good man. Again, this is them saying that. This is not me saying that. I actually don't think we know anything about his morals because we haven't even heard the man talk. I was describing that. And Sean jumped down my throat and conflated the two things. But it is interesting to see this movement arise. I think very immediately after the shooting happened, you saw merch being made very quickly. You saw people just really identifying with this because, again, the healthcare system is killing people. The healthcare system is murdering people. And I think when you've had to watch a family member die because an evil insurance executive has denied them care for nothing more than a few extra dollars on the profit line that year, it makes you outraged. So I understand the sentiment. I have not personally showed up outside Luigi's hearings. I think if I was going to do that, I'd probably show up as press, not a member of the cheering squad. But I think it's important to recognize and understand these people's ideologies. Sean claims to want to stop shooting and extremism in America. To do that, you have to understand where people are coming from. And by the way, he said the same thing about the January 6ers. You have to understand their ideology and what's motivating them if you want to de-radicalize people.
We talked about healthcare a little bit last time you were on, but since then, RFK Jr. has been really shaking up the U.S. He had some controversial comments on autism. He also suggested that families of those who have autism should be compensated by the government. What's your take on those comments?
Yeah, I think there's a worm still lodged in this man's brain. I really don't understand why he keeps saying this dumb stuff. I'm all for more research on things like mental health or autism or different diseases. But this is a man who has systematically defunded the research around infectious disease, around really all forms of disease and public health. So I don't think he should be spouting off about autism or any sort of public health stuff when he continues to advocate for defunding scientific research.
The new CMS director, Dr. Oz, was sworn in last week, and he's also advocated for slashing a lot of CMS's budget, their contractors, a lot of the research that they do. And this also comes at a time where Congress is considering slashing Medicare, Medicaid programs. And there's a lot of misinformation and kind of intrigue and mystery around what's going to actually happen to Medicare. What do you think Dr. Oz is going to go in and do? And how do you think he's going to shake up the department, and whether that will be good or bad for Americans?
Well, I personally believe it'll be very bad for Americans. I just think Dr. Oz is fundamentally unqualified. This is a TV doctor who has promoted gross levels of misinformation, health misinformation, conspiracy nonsense. He's promoted a ton of dubious products. Like, this guy is not qualified to be determining like budget cuts when it comes to scientific related matters. I don't think it's great. A lot of what like the MAHA people are selling is like, oh, let's investigate microplastics or vaccines or whatever. These are things that actually our government is already investigating. Should we investigate a lot of them more? Sure. But they never want to talk about the root cause of these problems. They never really want to create a healthier America. I think what Dr. Oz and the whole MAHA movement really wants is to just eliminate sick people. And I mean, eliminate sick people, like let them die. They're like cutting cancer research, you know? It's like, why would you do that?
What do you think's going on with the measles epidemic? Like, what's next?
Oh, yeah. You can send your kid to school with measles now. What are we doing? We're going back to the 1800s. These are people that honestly, their beliefs about the immune system are completely wrong. These are people that think that the more times you get infected with a disease, the better it is. They think that death is cleansing. This is why you see these parents. There was a parent in Texas of their child died of measles, and they said they wouldn't change a thing, wouldn't get the kid vaccinated. Like, how brainwashed you have to be to, I guess at that point, you just have to be brainwashed to justify the fact that you basically killed your own kid.
Back to the Dr. Oz thing, you say, he's not qualified. I'd argue that to get into any position in this administration, you need to have a little bit of TV experience. We saw last week that Mark Levin, he has his own Fox News show, obviously a conservative commentator, but he was just named last week to a Homeland Security board, right? Then you see Sean Duffy, a former Fox News host, the transportation secretary, Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon secretary. So it seems all these positions that get nominated, maybe one of the considerations is how good are you on TV?
I totally agree. I think that how good you are on TV is ironically the number one thing that they seem to be looking for. And I think that just shows Trump's obsession with cable news and image and how important media is. And by the way, he might be right. I mean, he might be right. These people might be terrible at government, but if they can sell whatever they're doing and they can sell Trump's agenda really effectively on Fox News or cable news or whatever, I mean, maybe that is ultimately all Trump wants and needs.
I think that's probably the case, just given how often you see Kristi Noem, Ice Barbie rolled out in front of the cameras and different ensembles and doing different things. She's actually in the news today for a different matter entirely.
Wait, what did she do?
It came out this morning that last night, Kristi Noem, out to dinner with her family, had her bag with $3,000 with her makeup that she uses for her TV hits and whatnot, and some other personal effects, including her passport, I believe, and her driver's license, were all stolen as she was out at dinner. Though she has a Secret Service protective detail, no one seemed to see this guy or be able to apprehend him because today she was telling reporters that it's still unresolved.
That's crazy.
I emailed Secret Service to try to get an answer on this. They haven't gotten back to me, but DHS did tell me that this is all true, that it did happen. So it's just shocking to me that in this last year, we've seen so much stuff going on with Secret Service, namely the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, that they're still in the headlines, and this time for kind of failing to protect one of the cabinet secretaries from getting robbed.
Also, why is she carrying $3,000 of cash? That seems insane.
So I thought the same thing. And I got a comment back from the spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, DHS spoke, saying she had so much cash because her whole family was in town. And so she had her grandkids and her family was at this dinner and she wanted to buy them some Easter gifts and some other things.
That doesn't even explain anything.
She didn't say that's why we had the cash, but that was the line that was included where you can deduce oh, I guess she has $3,000 to give to her grandkids for Easter.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, maybe she's shoving some hundreds in the Easter card.
This thief apparently was wearing a mask, came into the restaurant, which the Secret Service would have cleared the room. They would have made sure everything checked out before they brought the secretary in. So it is very alarming and quite shocking that this happened. I imagine that Congress will want to get to the bottom of it before too long. So that'll probably be the next step. But there was so much going on in the last 24 hours, this on top of everything. And then she confirmed it during the Easter egg roll, which is kind of wild.
Well, I just want to say also it doesn't matter that he was wearing a mask. Was he wearing a ski mask or a surgical mask?
I think it was a medical mask.
My thing with all that is, first of all, medical masks don't prevent you from being identified. The most identifiable part, they're going to take facial recognition or something, is actually your eyes.
I will say, I was going around D.C. this weekend. There was kids with masks everywhere. The cops were in really nice areas of D.C. A lot of apprehensions were made basically because folks were running around with balaclavas and face masks. Regardless, they were up to some hooliganism. But I think that it has become, if you're going to commit crimes, wear some sort of mask, wear some sort of protective covering.
I hate this thing where people are now associating masks with criminals. Criminals are wearing the full baklava, Spring Breakers style. But no matter what he was wearing, why the heck was he allowed to get so close that he could steal her purse?
Yeah,
I just think this sounds like a total Secret Service fail.
Taylor, we want to ask you before we let you go today. There was a Politico piece out this morning running through the 7 most shameless attention seekers in Congress. And these winners on this list included Ted Cruz, included Senator Chris Murphy, and others who have really leaned into social media compared to other lawmakers. There were a few more, including Jasmine Crockett. Obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene made the list.
Was Cory Booker on it?
I don't think Booker was. JD Vance was, and then Tim Burchett, who's just been going off on social media recently. But I want to get your take on this list. And if you agree that these are the biggest, most thirsty, most influential lawmakers in Congress, or if this is just completely made up.
I hope they make one of these for media, and I hope I'm on it. I think this list is not comprehensive enough. First of all, I think half of Congress is attention seeking. I think you have to be kind of a narcissist or egomaniac to run for political office to begin with. Where's Cory Booker on this list? Where are some of the other people that are out there every single day posting up a storm, starting drama online?
It's like he did his entire filibuster for no reason.
I think it's a good start. Why doesn't Daily Mail make one of these lists? Correct the record.
Taylor, thanks for being here. We appreciate you coming into MAGAland, breaking it all down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to MAGAland. It's been a crazy 24 hours, actually, in the MAGAland universe. JD Vance met on Easter Sunday with Pope Francis, and then less than 24 hours later, the Vatican said that the Pope had sadly passed away. It appeared that he passed away from natural causes connected to a long health battle that he's been struggling with over the years. We saw in recent weeks he's had struggle with pneumonia. He's pretty old, but the thing that I find most interesting is that this meeting between Vance and the Pope, which in its entirety was less than 17 minutes, caused quite controversy on social media. The Vatican said that the two had talked about the immigration crisis, and we've known that JD Vance in the past has come out sort of critical of the Pope. They've had headbutting on social media over this immigration stance. Obviously, the Pope is very encouraging of immigration and humanitarian crisis in the United States, whereas JD Vance has a very strong anti-immigration stance. Jon Michael, what do you think happened behind the scenes of this meeting? What was the fallout after it was announced the Pope passed away?
I can't imagine that JD Vance, a devout Catholic, was going into this with too much fire, too much anger towards the leader of his church. It seemed like he was totally honored to be there, and obviously has his family in tow on this national trip he's gone on, and I think he's in India now. However, the contents of the conversation did cause a stir online. People were speculating that they did get into it over immigration and some other issues. People do say that he was one of the more liberal popes that we've seen in the past decades. However, JD Vance did post this morning a glowing tribute to him on his social media, talked about how he delivered a wonderful homily years back in COVID and how that was a guiding star for JD Vance during the COVID pandemic. So I think that he has a lot of reverence for the father that just passed, but there was quite a stir online about what they might have gotten into over their ideological differences.
I thought it was nice that the Pope gave Vance's 3 young kids big Easter chocolates, Easter eggs, and he gave them also blessed rosaries, which was a nice touch. Vance was actually a convert to Catholicism, and his faith means a lot to him. He's been known to be at Mass regularly, so I think it was probably a big moment in his life, as you brought up, going face to face with the Pope. There was also one point I wanted to bring up was that it looked like JD Vance had edited his post this morning on sharing his thoughts on the Pope's passing away. What actually happened there? Take us inside that.
So some internet sleuths quickly noticed that his post was edited, and you can look back into the version history on X to see what he edited out of his original statement. Now, some people were curious, but it seems it was just a typo in his original statement that was fixed quickly after, maybe just 20 minutes after the post. But some people were curious about what was going on. However, we looked into it. We found out this morning, just a typo.
That's good that we got that cleared up. Melania Trump has made a very rare public appearance. She appeared alongside her husband on the White House balcony with the Easter Bunny. They were holding hands. He gave her a sweet kiss. It was a tender moment. There were a lot of other MAGA stars in attendance, including Don Jr. and his girlfriend Bettina, his daughter Kai, Caroline Levitt, and her husband and little baby. They were roaming around the White House grounds. So it was fun to see Trump in his element. He was shaking hands, kissing babies. And of course, we always love to get a sighting on Melania. And it has been quite some time since she did her last public appearance, I think over a month now. It was fun to see and kind of read into their body language. At one point, she did drop his hand on the balcony, which I thought was quite telling. But she did look overall pretty happy. This is sort of one of her bigger, most signature events. Then it comes also after Trump went on an Easter rant on social media. He was tearing into liberals and the media. It was an interesting Easter message, to say the least. What did you think, Jon Michael?
Well, I mean, all of Trump's messages, I'd say, are pretty interesting. This one was a little bit more rambly than most, but it's a fun occasion. And I know that the president has talked about his faith growing since his assassination attempts.
There was another kind of drama in connection with the Easter egg roll this year. The media was really going after the Trump White House for putting out a list of sponsors of the event, including Meta and Amazon, which traditionally the White House does have sponsors for this event that hosts thousands of Americans. And Caroline Leavitt was actually on Fox News this morning, and she ripped into the media. She said the only reason the quote legacy media even noticed that there were sponsors was because it was a Trump White House event this year. She was not having any of it, and she just went to town.
There's sponsors for every year. What was last year under Biden? Was it sponsored by Pfizer? Was it sponsored by Moderna? There's got to be sponsors to have these fun things. Now, it is notable that some of the sponsors here got front row seats behind Trump at his inauguration. Obviously, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos was there, as was Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg, sitting right behind Trump, getting in front row seat of his inauguration. So I guess there could be some speculation as to whether they're getting preferable treatment for their cozy relationship with Trump. But Trump likes big business leaders. These are really important American companies. I don't really see an issue with them sponsoring an event at the White House whatsoever.
Turning to another top Trump ally, Pete Hegseth. He's been embroiled in another Signal chat scandal. This time, it's been reported that he was sharing strike plans on Signal with another group of about 12 individuals, including his wife and brother, who are not government employees. So he was facing a lot of criticism, but he came out hard swinging today, saying that Trump and him are completely aligned. They are on the same page. It's no coincidence that there have been several firings at the Pentagon over leaks, and these individuals are now telling the press these sort of hit pieces on him. So he's not having it. Apparently, he's still in good graces with Trump. It seems as though that's the case. Caroline Leavitt said this morning as well that Trump has full confidence in him. But what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that Hegseth's going to go anywhere?
I don't think Hegseth's going to go anywhere just yet. I think that Trump's going to want to keep him around. You know, he's not going to let this whole Signalgate round two sink the ship, right? He didn't bow during the first Signalgate instance. This one seems to be around the same time, probably working through the same kinks as the first go around with Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz. Now, if this keeps happening, clearly we've got an issue, right? There's something that needs to be addressed here. Hopefully it was those people that were fired, so we don't have any more of this stuff happening again. We'll still have to wait and see.
It seems as though these chats, especially the one that's referred to in the reports over the weekend, happened during his confirmation process. So hopefully now that he's instilled as the defense secretary, there's more secure channels that he's using, especially in light of the first Signal chat scandal, and that this won't be an issue in the future so that national security will stay secure and Americans don't have to worry about that. That's all we have in MAGAland today. So, Jon Michael, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to see you. And please tune in on Wednesday. We'll bring you all the latest. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Welcome to MAGAland and email us at welcometomagaland@dailymail.com. Bye.